Okay, the following is the videotape deposition of Officer Andrew Rogers, taken the matter of JoAnn Matouk Romain v. the City of Grosse Pointe Farms. This case is to be held in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Michigan, Southern Division, before the Honorable Linda Parker. The case number is 14 CV 12289. We are located at 90 Kirby Road, Grosse Pointe Farms, Michigan. Today's date is August 31st, 2015. The time is approximately 2 p.m. Now, counsel, introduce yourselves, please.
Solomon Radner on behalf of the plaintiff.
May it please the court, George DeGroot on behalf of the City of Grosse Pointe Farms, Daniel Jensen, Holly Krismanich, Jack Patterson, Andrew Rogers, Richard Rosati, Michael McCarthy, Keith Colombo, Antonino Trupiano, Jeffrey McQueen, Wesley Kipke, John Walco, Frank Zielinski, and Mr. Ricky Good.
Mark Pizer on behalf of the defendant, Timothy Matouk.
Gus Morris on behalf of the City of Grosse Pointe Woods, Andrew Pezahowski, John Kosanke, John Ross, Keith Wazak, and Anthony Shalute.
Officer, if you raise your right hand, please. You swear the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
The witness is sworn.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
It's Andrew Rogers, A-N-D-R-E-W. Last name Rogers, R-O-G-E-R-S.
And where are you employed, please?
City of Grosse Pointe Farmers, Department of Public Safety.
What is your title there?
Currently the rank of lieutenant, afternoon shift supervisor.
How long have you been, is it a public safety officer?
Yes,
How long have you been a public safety officer in the City of Grosse Pointe Farms?
since February of 1999.
Can you take us through the various ranks that you've held since February 1999? Up and through today?
Yep, from 99 to 2004, I was public safety officer at PSO. From 2004 to 2005, I was a sergeant. And in 2005, I was promoted to lieutenant and have held that rank since.
Prior to becoming a police officer, did you train to become a police officer?
Yes.
And what did that training entail, please?
I did a two-step. I did a 2-year program through Kalamazoo Valley Community College.
What year was that?
Graduated from there in 1994. And then I also attended a few years later, Oakland Police Academy. And that was 1994.
What certificate or degree did you graduate with in '94 from Kalamazoo?
An associate's. I've since obtained a bachelor's.
Is that what you did with the Oakland Police Academy, or is that somewhere else?
No, that was Siena Heights University.
When was that, please?
2006, I completed that. I might be off a year or two. I'd have to look that up.
And what was the name of that college?
Siena Heights in Adrian, Michigan. It was an online program.
What was your major?
Public Safety Administration, bachelor's.
And then when is it that you went to the Oakland Police Academy?
1994.
Lieutenant, I'm going to ask you to do me a huge favor. Due to my old ears and hard of hearing, could you keep your voice up a little bit, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The Oakland Police Academy. Okay, so you graduated from Kalamazoo in '94.
If I get correct, Kalamazoo was 92. Oakland was 94.
Is when you started or when you completed it, or both?
I completed Kalamazoo in 92 and then put myself in the Macomb Police Academy in 94.
Oakland.
Sorry, Oakland. I went to the Macomb Fire Academy, so I get them mixed up.
Okay. Macomb Fire Academy?
Yes. And that wasn't until I got hired with the City of Grosse Pointe Farms in 1999.
So when is it that you went to the Macomb Fire Academy, please?
1999.
Did you ever complete any other certificates, degrees, programs, trainings for which you received any sort of certificate or diploma?
No.
Okay, so there's the Kalamazoo College, the Oakland Police Academy. Sian Heights and Saline, and the Macomb Fire Academy. Do I have it correct?
No, I believe Sienna Heights is in Adrian.
I'm sorry, Adrian.
Of course, I attend schools, police-related classes, but there's no certificates with those. It's more updates and educational purposes.
What kind of trainings?
SRT,
Okay.
hazmat, bicycle patrol, legal review and update. I would have to look at my resume to give you a list of them all.
Do you have one handy?
No, I don't.
Okay. So SRT, hazmat, bicycle patrol, legal review and update, and several others that you would have to look at your resume for. Is that a yes?
Yes.
I guess I should have said this before. Let me just make a quick record. Today is the date and time scheduled for deposition taken pursuant to notice, and it will be used for any and all purposes permitted by the court rules. Something that I'm sure you went through with your attorney beforehand, but I'll say it anyway. All answers have to be verbal, so no shaking the head, anything like that. We need verbal answers for all questions, okay?
Yes.
Okay. What is SRT?
Special response training, SWAT, tactical type team training.
And when did you do that training?
2001.
Did you get any sort of certificate from that, or that was just a training that you did?
It's a training. They give you a course completion thing, but it's not.
And
It's just completed the course.
who or what? Okay. Who or what provided that training?
That was run by the team itself. It was, I believe it was held up in Alpena, Michigan, at a training facility, but I believe it was sponsored by the Macomb Police Academy, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
It was put on by them, hosted by them, I should say.
Okay. And then you said that there's this hazmat training that you completed.
Yeah, we do hazmat refreshers once a year, just to the public safety side.
Bicycle patrol. What is bicycle patrol training?
Police patrol operations utilizing a bicycle.
And you have to receive special training before you're able to patrol on a bicycle.
You don't have to, but we require it for our bike team members, yes.
When you say we and our, you're talking
The
about.
City of Grosse Pointe Farms.
Okay, so the Farms Police Department or Public Safety Department.
I should note that I worked prior for another police agency prior to coming here. I also went to bike training there that is relevant.
Prior to 1999.
Yeah.
I was going to get to the gap between 92 and 90, or between 94 and 99, but we'll get there in a second. Now, what is legal review and update?
It's usually hosted by a local prosecutor there in Macomb or Wayne, and it's a refresher on update on laws and any changes.
Is that where you learn how to interrogate people constitutionally, search people constitutionally, and things of that nature?
No.
So what's covered in that kind of a training?
Just if there's any changes in the law, for instance, changes in the domestic violence laws, changes in the marijuana laws, it would kind of keep everyone up to speed.
All right. So you're here today because you're named as a defendant in a lawsuit. You're aware of that, right?
Yes.
And you're being sued by the estate of JoAnn Matouk Romain and the personal representative of that estate, Michelle Marie Romain. You're aware of that, correct?
Yes.
And you're being sued together with a number of other officers as well as a number of other entities. You're aware of that, correct?
Yes.
When is it that you first learned of this lawsuit?
I would have to look at the exact date when I received the packet in the mail from I believe, from your facility. I'm not sure on the date of issuance of that.
You didn't see it in the news prior to that?
That a lawsuit had been entered. It seems like every year there was an update on the news, so I wasn't sure of the lawsuit until I was actually being sued and until I received the paperwork. I think it came out at the same time.
Do you recall receiving interrogatories in this case?
Yes.
And you answered them together with your attorney?
Yes,
And I see you have a copy of them with you.
I do.
What other documents do you have in front of you, please?
I have some LEIN paperwork of the car, some Verizon paperwork when we requested information on a cell phone, and the believe it's the original case report.
Do you know if all this was provided to us prior to today? Or you wouldn't know that?
I received this information probably about a month ago.
Can I please see the main papers that you have, if that's okay with your attorney?
Sure.
That's what it said.
All the paperwork that you might have there, you may hand to him.
It's just three. Actually, that's second pieces. That's all I got.
Did you review any other lien records, or is this it?
That's it. That's what I have.
Are these your records, or did you get these? Well, where did you get these records?
From the packet that was provided.
So you were provided with a packet before you testified here today?
Yes, the case.
Excerpts from the case file.
Yeah, the case
that
file.
has been provided in response to request for production to all parties of record, and he received a copy of same.
Okay. Did you run any lien checks on this vehicle? On the vehicle that these
When?
lien records refer to at any time?
Yes.
Can you please show me which one of these reflects the record from your lien check?
I don't think any of these do. Let's see. I mean, this is a copy of the plate ran that night.
And who did that one?
Lieutenant Rogers' question, which has not yet been answered before his second question has been put to you, is if there are any of the materials that you were kind enough to provide to Brother Counsel that reflect your access of the lien system, show him which ones. And if they don't, then there's nothing to show him. And the record should reflect, as the video does, that a portion of the materials you provided to Brother Counsel has again been returned to him.
It would be the only copy I have, the one I actually ran. That was probably called into the station.
Could we identify that, Brother Counsel, for the record?
I was going to hope that we can enter this as an exhibit to the deposition.
Well, let's lay a foundation as to what it is first, so we all know what we're talking about.
I'm seeing this for the first time, so I'm trying to figure out what it is right now. Okay, I'm going to hand this document back to you. Well, I'd like to get this marked first if I can. Can you please pass that to James to have it marked as an exhibit? I'm handing you now what's been marked as exhibit 1. I'll hand it to your attorney first. What is that document? Can you please tell us what that document
Yeah,
is?
it's a Secretary of State file of JoAnn Matouk Romain. Basically, by running her ops, it comes back with her information, JoAnn Matouk Romain, date of birth, 693 Morningside, Grosse Pointe Woods address. It's her driving record. driving history.
When you say ops, is that short for operator's license?
Yes, I'm sorry.
And her operator's license is written down there, the number?
Yes.
What is the number, please, for the
It's
record?
R for Romain, 550-421-589-366.
Okay. Now, every time, if I understand this correctly, and please explain this to me because I don't know the answer. Every time you put something through LEIN or do any sort of search on LEIN, is there a record of that search?
I would have to assume there would be.
Junction Foundation.
Do you know that?
For a fact, there's a record. Yes, there's a record.
Okay. What does LEIN stand for?
Law Enforcement Information Network.
LEIN, that's an acronym, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And on this particular one, what time did you conduct that LEIN check?
This was conducted at 10:44:05 on January 12, 2010.
Okay, thank you. And what other documents did you review before coming today, please?
The case, the narrative report, so be it, my interrogatories, and Verizon, the whole packet.
Okay. The other document you have there is Verizon wireless records.
Yes,
And what are those records from, please?
they're from, it's what we sent to Verizon on the night of the 13th, late at night, probably 1 or 2 in the morning, to see if there was any cell phone activity on JoAnn Matouk's cell phone number, 313-820-7091.
Okay. Did you prepare in any other way by discussing this with anybody other than your attorney?
No.
You didn't discuss it.
Prepare what, just so the record's clear, the Verizon?
No, anything relevant to this case. I'll ask the question this way. I'll rephrase it. Prior to testifying here today, did you discuss today's deposition with anybody else other than your attorney?
Yes, I've spoke with officers that are also involved in the case.
Which officers have you spoken to?
Officer Colombo, Rosati, Trupiano. For the most part, that's it. Zielinski, Patterson.
Do you know if any of the officers that are listed as defendants in this case are currently in this room right now for the deposition?
Yes, Sergeant Trupiano is over on the left.
And then Tim Matouk as well?
My client's not a member of the Grosse Pointe Farms Police Department.
I'm sorry, I thought I said any defendant. I'll rephrase that. Do you know if there are any other defendants in the room right now?
I believe Tim Matouk is, yes.
Okay. Is this the first time you're reading Mr. Tim Matouk?
No, I met him for the first time last Friday when we were here and it got postponed.
This past Friday when we were here and Mr. Pizer introduced Tim Matouk to everybody in the room, correct?
Yes, that's the first time I met him.
It was the first time you met him, right?
Yes.
Okay. I want to take your attention to January 12, 2010, specifically a routine patrol that was conducted on Lakeshore Road near St. Paul's Church. Let me first ask, was there a routine patrol that was performed on Lakeshore Road near St. Paul's Church on January 12, 2010?
Yes,
And how do you know that?
because I was the one doing it.
Okay, so was this the first time you had done a routine patrol on Lakeshore Road near St. Paul's Church?
No.
Had you ever done one after January 12th, 2010?
Yes.
And what typically would you do? Well, let me ask you this. How many times, if you can recall, did you see a car parked in the parking lot? Well, let me back up a little bit. During that routine patrol, did you find a vehicle?
On January 12th,
Yes.
2010, yes.
Okay, and was it something that you found to be suspicious?
Suspicious, no. Kind of like, why is that car there?
Okay, so typically if you would see a car there during a routine patrol, you would have suspicions as to why it's there?
May or may not. That's
On
neither
this
here nor there. I would say it was a Tuesday night, if I recall. It was a Tuesday. It was late at night. It was the last vehicle in the lot. Kind of, not that it stuck out, but it was the last vehicle in the lot. Or on the drive, I should say.
Was this a patrol that you would do every shift?
No,
How often would you do this patrol?
I couldn't say. When I go out on patrol, I just drive. Wherever the road takes me. I might go through there twice a day, 3 times a day. I might not go over there for a week. It all depends.
And if you see a vehicle abandoned, like you did on January 12th, you may or may not approach the vehicle and try to figure out whether or not there's anything suspicious.
I wouldn't use the word abandoned. There was a car parked on the driveway.
Fair enough. And what did you discover?
Well, on patrol, going down the driveway, here's this silver Lexus SUV. I ran the plate came back clear. It was expired a couple days, not a big deal, not a deal breaker. Wasn't like I was going to sit on it to get a citation. Nothing looked out of the ordinary of it. It didn't come back stolen or reported in some type of crime, so I continued on my patrol, went westbound on Lakeshore.
Did you run a LEIN check on it at that time?
Yeah, from my the computer in the car, the MDT, mobile data terminal.
We don't have a record of that.
No, I don't have a record of that.
Have you ever seen a record of that?
No.
What time would you say this happened?
9 o'clock.
Do you know if there's anybody when you would do this LEIN check through your, what was it called, mobile something?
MDT is what we call it, mobile data terminal. You call it various things, that's what I call it.
Is that where you can actually put something and do your own LEIN check, or do you have to call to somebody and then they perform?
No, that's it's zero radio communication. You just type in the plate to the computer, and it spits out a response of the vehicle. And if there's a registered owner listed, it will spit back that information as well, automatically.
Did it do that?
Yes.
And who did it say was the registered owner of the vehicle?
I would have to look. It was Michelle Romain. It was two people. It was a leased vehicle. I'm looking at the LEIN check right here. To a Michelle M. Romain and a Kathy V. Matouk.
And you didn't think there was anything suspicious, so you drove away and left it there?
Yeah, it was. I mean, again, the plate was expired by a couple days. Not the end of the world. I had no reason to. I felt personally there was no reason to investigate it further and continued on my patrol.
So the plate was expired, but you didn't write a ticket for expired plate?
No, it's private property. I wouldn't do that to not a couple days old. That would be a warning at the most.
Okay. You didn't give a warning either, right?
There was no one to give a warning to.
You wouldn't put it on the windshield, like a parking ticket?
No.
Did you report this to anybody?
No.
Do you know if Grosse Pointe Farms Department of Public Safety sent anybody to the home of the registered vehicle, or the registrant of the vehicle, at any time that evening?
Later on that evening, when other items had developed.
What other items developed after you left?
Maybe less than an hour later, after I did the original plate check, Officer Colombo called out at St. Paul's and requested I make his location back to that scene.
And do you know how Officer Colombo
I think he
found himself there?
I believe he was on patrol also and came across it himself, ran it. And my understanding is that he took it a step further, got out, looked around the car, nothing looked odd, and went across the street and discovered some footprints in the snow.
Did you discuss this with Officer Colombo before you came here to testify today?
We've discussed the sequence of events that night, yes.
Did you discuss whether or not either of you did LEIN checks?
Yeah, that was discussed. Right when I responded back to Officer Colombo to the scene there, probably around 10 o'clock now, one of the first things that struck me, I was like, he told me that he found this vehicle instead of footprints in the snow. I was like, I ran that car less than an hour ago, kind of like, what's the odds there? And things developed from there.
And you just said something about footprints in the snow. There were footprints somewhere there?
On the embankment down to the water.
How far away were the footprints from the vehicle?
It would be, the vehicle was parked right at Lakeshore in the drive, the last vehicle spot there right against the sidewalk. I would say it's, I don't know the width of a road, let's say 75 feet maybe, 60 feet.
Okay. So 160, 175 feet.
No, 60 to 100.
Oh, 60 to 100 feet, okay. No more than 100.
Just across roadway. The distance from where the car, across a 4-lane roadway with a median.
Okay. And so there's the car parked in the parking lot, and then 60 to 100 feet away, there's these footprints in the snow. Do you know if there were any other footprints leading from the vehicle to those footprints?
No, I don't recall seeing any footprints by the vehicle at all.
Let me ask you this. When you see this car parked in a church parking lot, did you contact anybody at the church or see if maybe this person was in the church?
At my original LEIN check?
Either one, at any
At
time.
my original LEIN check, no, there'd be no, it wouldn't be warranted to do that. After the discovery of the footprints, seeing that, hey, possibly someone may have entered the water, then things start to turn, and we investigated it further that way. We did go inside the church that night, if that's where you're going towards.
Okay, so you did go to the church that night?
We checked I didn't, but the officers checked it, I know, for 3 separate times. Twice by themselves and once with family members of the involved.
And you performed a LEIN check once at 9 p.m. and once again at 10:44 p.m.?
Yes, yes.
How do you know those times?
Well, the 9 o'clock, because that's when I know I did it, and the 10:44 is the reason why we have a copy is when we probably ran it again, trying to find more information about the registered owners or people listed at that address, and that was run by Officer Dewey, Dispatcher Dewey, and then obviously he entered my name as the requester, which is normal.
So you ran your own at 9 p.m. and then another officer ran it at 10:44 p.m.?
Yeah, I don't know who else ran it, but I know I ran it. I've ran it probably several times.
And we have over here a record of the time that LEIN was run at 10:44 p.m., right?
Because this was run from the station house. From the station, put over the radio, call it in, hey, run this, and that's why we have a hard copy of that's,
This is Exhibit 1.
Exhibit 1, yes. Now, the other documents that you have that have not been admitted yet as an exhibit, but that you identified before as LEIN records, do you know if those were run from a mobile device or?
No, well, if I could back up here, looking at this document at 10:44, I'm getting confused with the Dewey one. That's 10 o'clock one, I'm sorry, that was the one Officer Dewey did, that was a check on the vehicle again. The JoAnn Matouk Romain was run by, we do have a hard copy from the car computer for that.
And that's from 10:44 p.m.?
Yes.
And then that other one that you just identified is at 10:01 p.m.?
Yes.
Is there a record anywhere that you know of the LEIN check that you ran at 9 p.m.?
No, I don't have that, no.
Do you know if anybody called in the suspicious vehicle prior to you finding it?
No.
Do you know if anybody, I don't know if you understood the question, but I'll ask it again just to make it very clear what I'm asking you. At any point subsequent to you finding that vehicle, did you ever learn that somebody had called the police station
No.
to report this vehicle there?
No.
Okay. Can I take a look at this, please?
If you have a copy, fine, I don't care. You can look at it. It's all been provided to you
I know.
guys.
I understand.
Through FOIA years ago, and through very voluminous copying request to produce, I reduced it to a CD. You've got it all. So if you want to mark the whole darn report and put it in, I could care less.
That's not what I was trying to do. The page I wanted to talk about is not there, so I'm going to use mine.
All right.
Does the name David Grant sound familiar at all?
No.
Now, I noticed that you have a copy of your narrative report there. Is that what that's called?
It's a narrative. It's not my narrative, but it is a narrative.
A narrative
Yes.
of the report. And you're missing the front couple pages.
Well, I just no.
You got them in the back. Let's go to the cover page for a second. This one.
If you want to mark that, and if we need to make copies, we can. May I see what it is you're showing him? Thank you.
There you go.
I've seen this now.
What is this document that you're looking at right now, please?
This is the front page of our reports.
CR number for the record, please. Top left.
Yep, I got 10-0000-120.
And occurrence date and time is 1/12/2010, 1847, correct?
Yes,
What is 1847?
it's time at night.
And what time is that for the layperson who doesn't know it?
6:47 p.m.
6:47 p.m. And right underneath that, call source is what?
Telephone?
And verified offense is suspicious circumstances, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any idea, well, let me ask you this, would this mean that somebody made a phone call at 6:47 p.m. to say that there's some suspicious circumstance going on?
Objection, lack of foundation.
If you know.
No.
Okay, so what does this mean to you?
Objection, lack of foundation, calling for speculation.
How many of these have you seen in your career, pages that look like this?
Hundreds.
Thousands?
Thousands.
Tens of thousands?
No, thousands.
Okay. And do you know what they mean?
What mean?
Do you know how to interpret what these pages mean?
Yes.
Okay. So can you please interpret what this means for me? Occurrence, date, and time, call source, and verified offense. Can you please explain to me what this means? What am I
Call
looking
source.
Lack of foundation, speculation. You may answer.
Call source is a telephone that someone called in. That's just an entry made. Suspicious circumstances could be anything of suspicious circumstance, any suspicious in nature. And what was the third part?
The time.
The time, according to this document, is 1/12/2010 at 18:47 p.m.
Let's move on to the next page. Page 2 of 14.
I think this is it.
2 of 15.
Page 2 of 14. That's right. And
The counselor, may I see what you're looking at? Because okay, I see. Your reference to 2 of 14 is in the lower left corner, correct?
correct, lower left corner, page 2 of 14.
Thank you.
And do you see anywhere on this page where it says the name David John Grant?
Third category down, David John Grant, witness.
Do you know if David John Grant appears anywhere else in this narrative? In the narrative that you have, the 14-page narrative?
Yeah, I recall reading his name in here, yes.
Can you please show me where his name is there?
Well far back.
Would you like me to suggest to save time that it's
Yes, thank you.
looks like page, using the numeric numbers in the lower left corner, page 12 of 14, or the faxed numerals in the upper right corner, it would be page 12 of 15.
Got it.
I don't have that. I have the bottom numbers. Maybe that was a fax. Okay, and over here, David Grant made Station 30. I don't speak police. What does David Grant made Station 30 mean?
He came to 90 Kirby Road here, where
Yep.
our station is. We're called Station 30.
And according to this report, what date did that take place, please?
According to this report, on 1/17/2010 at 4:47 p.m.
Let me just object to the form of the question for lack of foundation that the time that the officer just read into the record is when the visit occurred as opposed to when the report was written.
Okay. And you see in the middle of this paragraph, it says there that Grant states it was on 1/12/10 around 6:45 p.m. or 7 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Now, made station is not the same thing as a call source being a telephone, is it?
No, I would say no.
So based on the report here, can I conclude that if this was indeed a telephone calling in suspicious circumstance at 6:47 p.m., that it is not reflected in this report where it says David Grant made Station 30? Is that a correct conclusion?
I would,
Objection,
yes.
speculation, foundation. Go ahead and answer.
Is that a correct conclusion?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any idea who the source of this telephone call is that's reflected on the front page of this narrative report?
No, I don't know.
Okay. If I can please mark the first 2 pages. Do you still have them? If I may. This one, the second page. Can you please hand these to James and have them marked as exhibits 2 and 3? I'm just going to give everybody a second to situate themselves. Let's talk about some footprints. You said that there were footprints in the snowbank, correct?
Correct.
Were there footprints leading from the car to, you know what I mean by the car? I'm referring to...
Yes.
Okay.
The car in question, the Lexus.
Excellent. Do you know if there were any footprints leading from that car to the to the embankment?
I did not see any footprints leading from the car across the roadway.
And you looked at the area pretty well, didn't you?
Yes.
And there were no footprints there, were there?
I did not see any footprints.
Do you know how many different units conducted searches between January 12th and January 13th of 2010 of that area?
No, I would assume many. I could not provide a number.
If you answer to interrogatory 6D, numerous searches of the shoreline were conducted by all 30 units of the Grosse Pointe Farms Department of Public Safety. Would you stand by that answer?
I'm sorry, where are we?
6D. On that page. And then the answer's on the following page. And I'm on about the 4th or 5th line.
Of the night in question, I would say that all officers on shift that made the scene participate somehow in looking, checking the area for any signs of an individual.
How many units are on shift at any given time?
Five would be the minimum.
Okay, so between the night of January 12, 2010 and the early morning hours of January 13th, 2010, do you stand by your answer that numerous searches of the shoreline were conducted by all 30 units of the Grosse Pointe Farms Department of Public Safety?
I can't speak for the midnight shift, but I can say the afternoon shift, every officer that was working that time participated for either a short time or a long time looking in that area.
Okay. You don't know if searches were conducted by all 30 units, do you?
Well, all 30 units would be the entire shift, so yes.
Okay. Now, the footprints that were leading to the water, do you know if they led back from the water?
We did not locate any.
And when is it that you came upon these footprints?
When Officer Colombo called me back to the scene shortly around 10 o'clock, or a little prior to 10 o'clock, that's when going back, that's when we talked about the car, that's when I said I ran that car about close to an hour ago. And he says, well, look it over here. We walked across the roadway. Actually, I believe Officer Colombo and Officer Cruperano were standing near the footprints. I walked over them, and that's when I first observed what they were observing.
Were pictures taken?
Hour or so later by Detective McCarthy, I believe.
Do you know what time those pictures were taken?
I would say, no, exact time, no. That sometime that night.
Any idea before midnight, after midnight?
I couldn't say for sure. To guess, I would say about 12.
Do you know if the pictures that were taken of the footprints as they appeared prior to the arrival of officers on the scene?
No, the photos that were submitted with the case file were a couple hours into the investigation.
After officers had walked all over the area, correct?
Object to the form of the question?
Do you understand the question?
Yeah, officers were checking the water, yeah.
I'm going to hand you... Gus?
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm going to hand you a picture. Do you know what this picture is a picture of?
I would assume it's pictures of the prints.
You don't know?
No, I'd say this was in the case file. These are prints, photos from that night.
Well, I only handed you one. So that one photo is a photo of the area where the footprints were found?
It appears so, yes.
Now, does it appear that there's only one set of footprints leading to the water and no footprints coming back in that picture?
You can't tell. There's other footprints in the area at that time.
Can you tell by looking at that photo whether or not there was a struggle by whoever made those footprints?
I couldn't say.
Do you know who the first officer was to see these footprints?
Officer Colombo.
Mr. Colombo. Do you know if Officer Colombo roped off the area or took any pictures to preserve how those footprints looked the way he saw them?
No, photographs, no, by Officer Colombo, not that I'm aware of. And securing the area, we did put some tape up, but when the Coast Guard guys finally arrived on scene with their rope team, they would walk through the area, and we had to remind them a couple times. And unfortunately, the prints weren't preserved as people were in the area, but we knew what prints were there, the original set the whole time.
Do you know if this picture was taken before or after the Coast Guard people walked over that area?
I would say it's after.
Okay. Did anybody from your department walk over that area prior to that picture being taken?
Down the sides.
Wherever that's a picture of.
Well, I couldn't say who made what prints.
Okay. Can you please hand that to James and have that marked as an exhibit? And talk about that. Do you know if anybody told the Coast Guard that, and this is a direct quote, a car with footprints leading to the water had been located near a local church?
I don't know who said that.
Do you know if anybody did?
I don't know. No.
Do you know if anybody reported to the Coast Guard or to anybody else that the woman had been missing since 5 p.m.?
I don't know who would have said that.
Do you know if anybody told the Coast Guard that police contacted the car owner and stated that her mom dropped her off at a residence and then left to go to the church around 5 p.m. and that she has been looking for her mother since 5 p.m. and that the individual's purse is still in the car?
You can ask me who said that. I didn't know.
Let me take your attention to interrogatory number 6. Specifically, I'm asking you about 6E, 6F, and 6G. I'd like you to take a minute, please, to look at the questions and look at your answers. And then I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
So, do you stand by the answers that are in these interrogatories, or would you like to change them or add them in some way?
I don't recall telling the Coast Guard that. I know what I did tell the Coast Guard.
What did you tell the Coast Guard? You're the one who called the Coast Guard?
Yeah.
And what is it that you told the Coast Guard?
I said that we had located a vehicle, and we located some prints nearby, and that we believe someone is in the water, and that we would like their assistance in checking the water, being that they have the capability to do so.
You didn't tell the Coast Guard the police contacted the owners of the car and that she stated that her mom dropped her off at a residence and then left to go to the church around 5 p.m. and that she has been looking for her mother since 5 p.m.?
I don't recall that.
You didn't tell that to the Coast Guard?
I don't recall that.
Did you tell the Coast Guard that you got a hold of the woman who owns the car and that she reports that the car owner has been missing since 5 p.m. local time?
I I don't recall.
Did you tell the Coast Guard that there was a missing vehicle, that there was a missing woman since 5 p.m. and an abandoned vehicle with footprints leading to the water's edge?
The second part of that, yes. We located a vehicle with footprints leading to the water's edge.
Did you tell them that there were footprints that led from the car to the ice and then to the water's edge? And that no footprints returned from the water?
Again, I would say the only footprints that we located were the ones down the embankment, and we did not see any return prints or signs of someone attempting to get out of the water.
Okay, so you did not tell the Coast Guard that footprints led from the car to the ice and to the water's edge?
I don't recall that. I may have said the prints from the embankment to the car in a straight line. We believe someone from that vehicle, whoever it may be, possibly is in the water.
But you definitely did not tell the Coast Guard that footprints led from the car, correct?
I don't recall that.
I'm going to hand you Gus, do you want to see it?
Yes, please.
Before I introduce it as an exhibit. And you can show it to Mr. Pizer, please, also. Hand you a piece of paper that is just one piece of the Coast Guard report. I'd like you to look at the first portion that I've highlighted there.
Okay.
Let me take a look at it again. Do you see where it says here that footprints led from the car? Do you see that?
Yes.
And that's not what you told them, is it?
I don't recall telling them that.
Well, did footprints lead from the car?
I did not observe footprints from the car.
So you would not have told them that footprints led from the car unless you saw footprints lead from the car, right?
Yeah, I don't recall. No.
Mark that, please.
I'm going to in just a second. Please, can we go off the record for a second, please?
Our time is 14:45:33. We're now off the record.
This is the only...
The time is 14:46:01. We're now back on the record.
James, can you please mark that as an exhibit?
Five. Thanks.
Yes.
Do you recall talking to anybody from the Canadian authorities?
No.
You're not the one who spoke to the Ontario Provincial Police?
No.
Are you going to mark this and use it and do that so then I can make my objections and refer to the exhibit?
James, can you please mark that as an exhibit?
Help yourself.
handing you what's been marked as Exhibit 6. This is a document, one page of a document provided by the Ontario Provincial Police. Is that 6 or 7? 6, okay. Thought I may have made a mistake there. Can you please take a look at the highlighted portion of that?
Well, I'm going to obviously allow you to ask him questions of this document, which I object to as a hearsay document. You've not laid any foundation as to the authorship of same. You've not laid any foundation as to whether or not this individual had anything to do with what some third party recorded on this page of this report, and this officer has already testified that he had no contact with the Ontario Provincial Police. The document clearly speaks for itself, and to ask him to read a document is asking him to do something, nothing more than what the document can do by itself, that anyone can do that can read the English language. You can answer his question, whatever it might be.
Do you see the part in that document where it says that the police told tracks in the snow led from the vehicle to the water's embankment? Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes?
Yes, I see that.
And again, they would not have gotten that information from you because you would not have said something like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, James, if you would mark that as an exhibit, please. Did you communicate with the Grosse Pointe Woods Public Safety at any time with regard to this particular investigation?
Right, and I know there was contact with the Woods. I don't believe I was the one that made contact. I don't recall that.
But somebody did, right?
Someone did, yes.
And I'm going to hand you what is report number 100000037.1, page 1 of the Grosse Pointe Woods Public Safety Report. But first, I'm going to let your attorney look at it.
Also marked as Exhibit 7.
Let me just
Exhibit
object to
7,
any
yes.
questions you might ask of this witness regarding Exhibit 7, which is not authored by him, nor does his name appear anywhere on it, and indeed is from a Department of Public Safety other than his employer, and as such, same as nothing more than a hearsay document calling for his speculation on the intent of whatever might be written in that hearsay document.
And you see over here where it says that Grosse Pointe Farms Public Safety conducted an investigation at that time and located footprints in the snow leading to the lake from Romain's vehicle.
Yes.
Do you see that?
The highlight part, yes.
And again, this information would not have come from you because you would not have said something like that, correct?
I did not, no, correct.
Do you have any idea who is the party who gave the information to the Canadian authorities?
No, I don't. I would take
You don't
guess.
have to guess. If you don't know,
Yeah, no,
you
I don't know.
know.
I don't know.
Do you have any idea?
You just answered the question. He doesn't know.
It sounded like he was about to make a guess. I'd like to know.
I would assume it would be someone from our detective bureau.
Okay.
And who that would be, I don't know.
Do you know who it would have been who spoke to the Coast Guard?
When?
Told them about the footprints?
Well, let me just object to the form. The document you showed this witness had absolutely no date or time as to when it was authored.
Okay, I'm handing you back Exhibit 7. Now, you've seen police reports before, correct?
Yes.
And all that information covering almost the entire first half of that page is what exactly, please?
It's a narrative written by a Grosse Pointe Woods officer.
Dates, times, things like that?
Let's see. Entered by Kevin Bonk on 1/13/2010 at 9:39 p.m. And verified by John Kozenki at 9:30. I believe he's the supervisor of the
Okay. And this document references a communication that they received from the Grosse Pointe Farms Public Safety indicating that there were footprints in the snow leading to the lake from Romain's vehicle, right?
There's footprints on the embankment, yes.
And, well, that's not what it says here, is it?
No, but,
Okay. And do you happen to know who gave the information to Grosse Pointe Woods?
no, I don't.
Okay, so to wrap it up. You don't know who gave the information to Grosse Pointe Woods, you don't know who gave the information to Canada, and you don't know who gave the information to the Coast Guard.
Object
Is that
to the
correct?
form of your question is a total mischaracterization of at least part of his testimony. He has made it crystal clear that he had contact with the United States Coast Guard on the evening of January 12th, 2010. I take
That
issue
was-
with your mischaracterization of his testimony.
It was a mistake, thank you. So you spoke to the Coast Guard, but you did not tell them that there were footprints leading from the car to the lake, right?
Objection, asked and answered. You can tell him one more time and then we'll...
Tell me one more time that the information in that report didn't come from you, please.
I called the Coast Guard, said we found the vehicle, there's footprints down in the embankment, we believe someone may be in the water.
The information that I showed you in that Coast Guard report did not come from you, correct?
I don't recall that, no.
And the information in the Grosse Pointe Woods did not come from you, correct?
No.
Do you know who
Exhibit 7 you're talking
Exhibit 7.
Thank you.
Do you know from whom that information came?
No, I would assume from one of the officers on scene, us discussing it.
And how about from the Canadian report? Do you happen to know who
No.
gave the Canadian authorities that information?
No.
But that is, all three of those reports contain information that you know not to be true, correct?
It's written in a way that I can see your point you're trying to make. The footprints in the embankment in a direct line with the car, and I can see how it can be written in the way that you're looking at it.
Well, let me ask it this way. Grosse Pointe Woods, the Coast Guard, and the Canadian authorities all have in their reports that somebody at Grosse Pointe Farms told them that there were footprints leading from the car to the lake. That is not what you observed, correct?
It's not what I observed.
When you discovered that, well, let me ask you this. At what point in time that evening did this become a missing person?
Don't recall. When I believe after contact was made with the Romain family that their mother was whereabouts unknown.
And her car was there, correct?
Not her car registered to Michelle and Kathy.
Did the family tell you that that's the car that JoAnn drove?
They didn't tell me personally.
Do you know anybody who may have looked through the contents of the purse that was in the vehicle?
I believe at the time Officer Trupiano did.
Okay. And at that point, did it become clear to anybody that who may be the person who drives that car?
Yes, not Michelle. JoAnn's ID purse was located in the car. So we reasonably believe that she was driving the car that night.
So there was a person driving that vehicle, or at least who drove that vehicle, who was missing. Is that fair to say?
Whereabouts were unknown. Yes.
Whereabouts
fair
unknown,
to say.
okay. And did you or anybody else think that maybe it would be good to get a canine over there to start smelling stuff?
No, I believe we were doing everything at the time. It was a fast-moving situation. We believe someone was in the water, not knowing who was in the water, and our primary focus at that time was rescue efforts, trying to see if we could get someone out of the water.
Looking around the area where you were, was there anywhere else a person could have been, either hiding or possibly dumped?
It could have been anywhere. It could have been in the church, could have been in the academy, could have been for a walk.
And it was dark, right?
It was nighttime, yes.
And dogs can smell in the dark,
Yeah.
if you know?
Yes.
And dogs can smell it in the cold?
I object foundation, but I have a...
Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have a dog without a nose, so...
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Canine units that are trained by police forces can smell in the dark and in the cold?
Yes.
And no canine was called to this particular area to try to pick up a scent and see where JoAnn may have disappeared to, right?
No canine was called by me, no.
Is there a reason that you did not call a canine?
No, I believe, again, our focus was primary out onto the lake. We had checked the break wall. We had checked St. Paul's Church numerous times. We had checked the grounds of the academy. We, again, checked all the break wall in the surrounding area. And now we're talking many people are there. And I think if someone had asked for a canine, I think the scene would be too contaminated at that point.
You don't think it would have been a good idea to have a canine come over and see if the canine could find JoAnn? Or at least lead you on the trail where she was?
Hours into it? No.
How about not hours into it? How about 1 hour into it?
Object to form foundation speculation.
How about 1 hour into it?
No, it's too many people in my opinion.
Okay.
And again,
How about the first person who got there, Colombo? If you would have called a canine over there, it wasn't contaminated yet, was it?
no.
It's possible the canine could have picked up a scent, right?
Object to form.
Right?
Yep.
And nobody called the canine, right?
No. Upon discovery of the prints in the snow, I think our focus was out into the water.
I'm going to say a name to you. I'd like you to tell me if you know who this person is. Paul Hawk. Any idea who that person is?
Only from reading the reports, the case file.
And which reports are you referring to?
I believe it's in here, witness statement Paul Hawk said he saw out. If you know where the pages are, I appreciate it. I'll look for it all day long.
Do you know who interviewed Paul Hawk, if anybody?
I would assume someone from the detective bureau.
Do you ever take witness statements from people?
Yes.
Were you trained in how to take statements from people?
I would have to say yes. They covered it in the police academy.
So this is something that you learned at the police academy?
Yes.
Which you graduated from in 94, right?
Yes.
Since then, have you received any further training with regard to how to take witness statements or how to take witness statements?
I'm sure I have. I would have to review my training file.
Okay, well, why don't you tell me what happened? Somebody comes in, they have some information for you. What do you do?
At this department,
Yes,
we do it one
please.
or two ways. We give a witness statement form. That subject will write down a narrative of what happened. The officer at the same time will either take notes or remember that and then add that to whatever it may be, a case report or a call for service. And that witness, the original copy of the witness statement will get submitted to the DB along with whatever paperwork the officer conducts.
Is it important to take down, if you're going to take down what the witnesses said, rather than let them write it out, is it important to take down what they're saying very carefully with great attention to detail?
Sure.
For example, if somebody says man, you would write man.
Yes.
If somebody says woman, you would write woman.
Yes.
If somebody says fat, you wouldn't write skinny, would you?
No.
It's obviously of extreme importance to make sure that when you're taking such a statement, you get down everything that they're saying as clearly as you possibly can, correct?
I would hope so.
Is it your job to decide in some way if a witness is telling you the truth or not?
No, if there's a red flag or something that pops up of a statement that seems odd or doesn't make sense, you might ask them to re-clarify that, such as, I'm sure you do it all day long in court.
But when you're taking down a witness statement, the most important thing to do is to get down the information that they're saying, correct?
It's to get the pertinent information, yes.
And then after you have the pertinent information, when you're reviewing everything, then you can start thinking about what's credible and what's not, correct?
Sure, yes.
Do you know how they got into the car? Do you know what I'm referring to when I say that?
Yes, I assume we're talking about the Lexus January 12th.
And when I say they, I mean the officers from your department.
Yes, I believe it was Officer Trupiano used a Slim Jim, a device used for unlocking cars.
Was it Slim Jim?
Yeah, the Slim Jims, you know.
It was a device that, you
No,
know,
we did that because there's cameras.
I'll stand corrected. I'm not sure what device he used. I assume it was a Slim Jim. Could have been a,
It was some sort of lockout tool?
yes, a lockout tool.
It wasn't with a spare key?
No,
Nobody ever tracked down a spare key to open the car?
not that I'm aware of, no.
At what time, Counselor?
Well, I don't know. I just asked ever.
If he knows, lack of foundation.
No, I don't know. Key.
Let me ask you this. Let's say you guys take a vehicle and tow it. Where are you going to tow it to?
What's the vehicle?
Let's say a vehicle like this. Any vehicle. You're towing a vehicle. Where do you tow
Well,
it
is it involved in a felony? Is it a traffic arrest?
to? Let's say a vehicle like this. If you would be the one to tow it, where would you have towed it to?
If it was a simple straight tow and it was nothing more than an abandoned St. Paul's called, so we want this vehicle off our lot, it's
Let's talk
private
about that
property, it would go to point tow.
And when you would take it to point tow, or some other officers would take it to point tow,
Or tow. I'd say we use point tow, but it could be another tow agent.
would you guys lock up the car first, or would you just keep it unlocked so that you can get back in if you need to?
On a tow where there's nothing suspicious of nature, if it's like an abandoned vehicle, we would, no. I mean, I would assume the car would be locked, being that it's abandoned. And if not, we, you know, there's,
Was the vehicle taken to the garage of the Grosse Pointe Farms Department of Public Safety, if you know?
I believe it was brought here, yes.
And when it was brought there after Trupiano opened it,
Yes,
was it locked afterwards?
I don't know.
Do you know if the vehicle was ever dusted for prints or searched in any other way for any sort of...
Reviewing the case report, and yes, I believe it was. I've seen pictures. Where obviously, there's dust in there. Also, it was a very messy car, but yes, it was dusted for print.
It was dusted. Can you please show me where in the report it says that?
Oh, I'm not sure if it's in the report. I'm referring to the photos of the car photos, which I don't have that. I'm sure it's in here somewhere.
Do you know if anything was found? Any fingerprints?
I don't know.
Do you know if any other DNA was found?
No.
Do you know if any items were checked for DNA?
No.
Any items that were in the car?
No.
You don't know, or you know that they weren't?
No, I don't
You
know.
don't know, okay. Do you know if there was a black scarf that was in the, anywhere in the vicinity of what was going on?
Vicinity of where? The car or
The car, between the car and the embankment, the water?
There was a black scarf located in the roadway. Westbound lanes of Lakeshore, lane number 1. Probably, I keep referring to the footprints in the car in a straight line. The scarf would be about, from what I recall, maybe 6, 8, 10 feet down the road, more west towards Detroit. And I wasn't located till later on.
Let me ask you too, do you have the actual reports or just the narrative? Just the narrative, I believe, okay. James, can you please mark this as an exhibit? And what I'm handing you now is Grosse Pointe Farms report number 10000000014.1.
Walk that. Yep, thank you.
And I marked it as Exhibit 8, I believe.
This is one page of the report, the entire report?
Just one page, just page 1.
Thank you.
Appears to be page 1 of 6. And it is 14.1 is the last ending of the report number.
I'm going to draw your attention to the very top writer. First of all, do you know who the writer is? Who's the writer in that report? If you know about it.
Officer Tribbiano.
Okay. And what is it that he did in that first sentence?
The writer made the area of 157 Lakeshore to assist PSO Colombo with a suspicious incident.
And what is the incident? Read the next sentence, please.
While on patrol, PSO Colombo observed a 2008 Lexus license plate 5 Frank Union Edward 55 parked in the drive to St. Paul's.
And the next one.
Yep, the tracks led from the vehicle to the water's edge.
Okay. Now, again, that's not what you saw, right? You didn't see any tracks leading from the vehicle to the water's edge, did you?
Just the ones in the snow and embankment.
But not from the vehicle. It was about 60 to 100 feet away from the vehicle.
Yeah,
Right?
across the road line, yep.
Across the road line. Definitely not from the vehicle.
I did not observe prints from the vehicle, no.
And you see that there was a black scarf that was located.
Yes.
Do you know what that black scarf is today?
Well, today, no.
Okay. What would be the protocol with this scarf? This particular scarf? What's protocol? What would be proper protocol? How to handle that scarf, please?
It would be, being as the scene developed that night and we knew that someone was missing, it would be that was located. It was believed later placed into evidence for any value or which may or may not, be warranted in the future.
Let me ask you one last thing, please. When is it that you called the Coast Guard? What time, if you recall?
It would have to be shortly after 10 o'clock, 10 maybe. It was a pretty moving situation.
And do you know when it is that they got to the scene?
Very quickly, probably about 10:30, 10:40. Helicopter was first on scene, and then a pickup truck with a water team, I guess, and a small boat arrived shortly after.
When you called the Coast Guard, were you the first officer to call the Coast Guard about this
Objection, lack
incident?
of foundation.
If you know.
I don't know, but I would assume that I was.
Okay. Can we go off the record, please?
Time is 15:11:17. The time is 15:12:34. We're back on the record.
I just have a few more questions for you, officer. Let me ask you specific questions about what is supposed to happen per police protocol in different situations. Talk about the vehicle. Find a vehicle, the first thing you did was you ran the LEIN, correct?
Yes.
And then you left, correct?
Yes.
And did you follow protocol doing that, or did you not follow protocol?
I followed protocol. I ran a plate. I found nothing suspicious at that moment, at that time, and continued on my patrol.
Nothing in your training or in any departmental procedures or policies that you violated there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How about when footprints are found? When footprints are found and you think that there's somebody who may have just walked into the water, apparently in an attempt to kill herself, would proper protocol be to secure the area and have an opportunity to take pictures?
We didn't know someone was trying to commit suicide that night. We didn't know. We assumed, based on the prints that we found, that it appears someone may be in the water.
And based on that information, obviously, it led to the Coast Guard being called and a diving team being deployed into the water, correct?
Yes, as the scene developed, it got more and more apparent that we possibly may have something more than an abandoned car and a set of prints.
Is it proper protocol to, in this situation, if there's footprints walking to the water and not coming back, was protocol violated by stepping over those footprints?
No, if there was any prints, anyone stepped over those prints, it was done inadvertently. It wasn't done on purpose. It was, for a fact, I remember recalling a Coast Guard personnel with their rope line as they waded in the water, walked through it, and we were quickly, like, stop, watch out, step over it. That was the one time. But we secured it the best we could, and the conditions that presented themselves.
How about with the evidence that was found in the car? What would be proper protocol for all of that?
I believe that was followed. We towed it, we secured it, we placed the items. I believe the purse was eventually put into evidence as long as with the scarf that was located.
And you're familiar with what happened at the scene, what happened to the vehicle and the contents of the vehicle? And are you satisfied that protocol was followed in all aspects?
I believe we exhausted the resources available to us at that time.
Was protocol followed, yes or no? If you can answer.
Yes, I'm not sure how we violated it in any way.
Do you know what was done to preserve the purse and the other contents that were found in the vehicle?
No, I can only assume that they were placed into evidence. I did not observe anything done with that purse.
Do you know if they were dusted for prints?
I don't know.
If they would have been dusted for prints, would proper protocol to be to make sure that nobody else touches it with their fingerprints?
Objection like a foundation.
If you know police protocol.
I would, yeah, if it's involved in a crime, I would say yes, you would protect it.
And what if it's just involved in a suicide? Then police protocol would be to allow people to touch it and contaminate it.
Right, and I don't know if that occurred or not. I don't know if gloves were worn or not. I have to assume that they were.
But if this was a suicide, then they didn't have to be worn. Is that what you're saying? Or did I not understand that?
No, I would say do it. Protect yourself. I would personally wear gloves if I was going through a purse.
That would be the proper thing to do in such a situation, correct?
It may or may not be.
But you would,
I probably would.
because you feel that it's the appropriate thing to do, right?
I would wear a print. If I think I'm going to dust something for prints, whether it's a crime, a suicide, or whatever, I'm going to protect that item from getting my prints on it. Yes, I would do that.
Do you know if an officer was dispatched to anybody's home while this whole thing was taking place?
Objective form, whole thing being some type of investigation
Okay.
on January 12th, 2010.
That's the whole thing.
Well, then ask your question appropriately. Just don't do these vague kind of assumptions and throw it out there and assume we can all read your mind. Some of us might be able to, some of us might not be able to.
An objection to form is to anyone's house. Pretty vague.
Was somebody sent to JoAnn's house or Michelle's house?
Yes,
Okay. And who was sent?
a Grosse Pointe Woods officer.
And you don't know who that person was?
No,
Is it going to be in any of your reports?
I would have to read. No, I don't know.
Should it be in any of your reports?
It might be in the Grosse Pointe Woods report, but I don't think it would be in our report. It may or may not be. I haven't really looked for that.
Do you know if somebody from Grosse Pointe Farms would have called somebody from Grosse Pointe Woods and said something to the effect of, hey, you may want to send somebody over to this house?
Yeah, I believe that occurred.
And do you know who it is from your department who called
No, I don't know, but I would have to assume it was someone from our shift, from the afternoon shift that day, or the dispatcher.
Do you know what info they were given?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what info that officer was given prior to going to the home?
No, other than it would be, hey, there's this vehicle here, are we missing anyone from this vehicle? Do you know why this vehicle's here? Type.
It wasn't you who called Grosse Pointe Woods, was it?
No, I did not call Grosse Pointe Woods.
Now, if you would call another police department or another public safety department, would you notate that in your report, what time you called and with whom you spoke? If it were you?
If it were me, yeah, I would assume I would.
What is BM2 SADO? Understanding you. It's just a part of the police report. I don't know what this stands for. I asked about it and I just am curious what it stands for. if you know.
I don't, it's, is it boatmate? I don't know, it's Coast Guard vernacular. I believe it's boatmate or boatswan or boat.
BM2 SADO is some sort of...
Sato is, I think, is his last name.
Oh, okay. So this is from Coast Guard language.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Do you know Zulu time by any chance?
The what?
All right, forget it. I have no further questions.
I have no questions, thank you.
I have a couple. Officer, today's date is what?
August 31st, 2015.
And last Friday's date was what?
Don't do that to me.
August 28th,
Thank you,
2015.
August 28th, yes.
Okay? And it's your testimony here under oath that that date of August 28th, 2015 is the first time you've ever met my client sitting to my left, Mr. Tim Matouk.
Yes.
Have you read the complaint that was filed against you in this case?
Yes.
You understand, I'm going to try to simplify it, that some of what they're alleging is that you and your fellow officers conspired with all the other co-defendants to cover up a murder?
That's my understanding.
All right, here's my question. Have you ever conspired with my client, Tim Matouk, to cover up the murder of JoAnn Matouk Romain?
No.
Have you ever intentionally lost evidence that incriminates my client?
No.
They also allege on page 31 of their second amended complaint, on paragraph 74, that the individually named defendants, that's you and every other officer named in this case, acted in concert with each other, acted purposely with the intent of creating a danger to JoAnn by making it known to killer John Doe that they would immediately cover up the murder and move to suicide. Is that a true allegation?
That is false allegation.
You would never conspire with anyone to cover up a murder, would you?
Correct.
And just so I'm clear, the first LEIN that you did was from your scout car at roughly 9 o'clock.
Yes.
So then when officers arrived at Miss Matouk Romain's home at approximately 9:25 in the evening, a LEIN check already had been done, correct?
Oh, yes.
I have nothing else, thank you.
Did you...
I get to ask you.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I thought you passed already. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That was Gus.
Lieutenant, I'm going to hand you exhibit number 4. And it's clear that there is evidence of contamination. But first off, can you point out any of the tracks that from your recollection were made or represent what you saw when you were first shown the tracks by PSO Colombo and PSO Trupiano?
Yes.
All right. Could you hold that up to the camera and point out, if you will, the tracks that you believe are still visible that are evidence of the tracks you first saw upon arriving at the scene and being shown the tracks?
It would be the body impression here into the water. Obviously, someone sitting
What did
down.
you believe what you're pointing to represented on January 12th, 2010?
That's someone, it's a two-stage, this photo doesn't represent well, ledge there, and that someone had walked down the embankment. I can't make out the footprints going up because of the contamination, but this is obviously 100% accurate of what I saw that night, where it appeared someone had lowered themselves down a ledge. and got-
Not to sound profane, but would we refer to that as possibly a butt print?
Yes,
And do you see any evidence of handprints or someone pushing off from
yes.
that ledge?
On either side, here and here.
And those appear preserved in exhibit number 4 as you saw them on January 12th, 2010?
Yes,
Thank you. At any time, Lieutenant Rogers, did you conspire with anyone to murder JoAnn Matouk Romain?
no,
At any time, did you conspire with anyone, defendants or anyone else, to cover up a murder of JoAnn Matouk Romain?
no,
On the evening of the 12th of January 2014 and the early morning hours of January 13th, strike that. In the early morning hours of the 13th of January 2010 and on the hours of January 12th, 2010 that you were at the scene, did you come upon or observe any evidence of foul play?
no,
At any time on January 12th, 2010 and January 13th, 2010, when you were on the scene, did you uncover any evidence of what you thought was evidence of a crime?
of a crime, no.
Now, how long were you at the scene that evening? And when I say evening, I mean the late evening hours, night hours of the 12th of January 2010 and the early morning hours of the 13th of 2010.
Let's say from when Officer Colombo called me to the scene at 10 o'clock, I probably remained 100% on scene to 2 a.m., went back to the station at some time and did the Verizon cell phone, but I was back and forth throughout the night. I stayed most of the night either at the station after 2 a.m., then back at the scene.
Was it your responsibility to write a report of your activities of the 12th of January 2010 and the early morning hours of January 13th, 2010?
No, that would be handled by responding officers.
And that would have been whom?
Trupiano, Colombo.
All right. Any reports in the case file compiled with respect to the JoAnn Matouk Romain incident written by you?
No, just the Verizon signature paperwork, that'd be it.
To the best of your recollection, on the evening of January 12, 2010, when you were at the scene, did the name of Timothy Matouk even come up among the officers, Coast Guard, or anyone else investigating the scene that evening?
No,
During the early morning hours of January 13th, 2010, to your recollection and memory, did the name of Tim Matouk ever come up, to
No.
your knowledge?
no,
Now, prior to January 12, 2010, did you have any professional contact with JoAnn Matouk Romain?
no,
At any time before January 12, 2010, did you have any social contact of any nature with JoAnn Matouk Romain?
no,
At any time before January 12, 2010, did you have any professional contact with Bill Matouk?
professional, no,
At any time prior to January 12, 2010, did you have any professional contact with John Matouk?
no,
Did you at any time prior to January 12, 2010 even know who John Matouk was?
no,
At any time prior to January 12, 2010, did you have any contact, professional or otherwise, with David Romain?
No.
At any time prior to January 12, 2010, did you even know who David Romain was?
No.
At any time prior to January 12, 2010, did you have any professional contact with Michelle Romain?
No.
At any time prior to January 12, 2010, did you have any social contact or any contact whatsoever with Michelle Romain?
No.
At any time prior to January 12, 2010, did you have any professional contact with Kelly Romain?
No.
Did you have any contact whatsoever prior to January 12, 2010, social or otherwise, with Kelly Romain?
No.
Prior to January 12, 2010, did you have any professional contact with Mr. Michael Romain?
No.
Did you have any social or other contact prior to the 12th of January 2010 with Michael Romain?
No.
At any time prior to your involvement commencing on January 12, 2010 with the discovery of the Lexus and the footprints, did you even know who Michael Romain was?
No.
Same time frame, did you even know who Kelly Romain was?
No.
Same time frame, did you know who Michelle Romain was?
No.
Now, at any time prior to January 12, 2010, did you have any contact, telephone or otherwise, email, with either Tim Matouk,
No.
Bill Matouk?
I've been to a store. I believe he owns.
Did you ever send him a letter or an email?
No. No.
What's the purpose of going to his store? And for the record, what store would that be?
Woods Wine Shop on Mack Avenue
And why would you go there?
to buy wine.
All right, so you would visit him solely as an individual seeking to have a retail purchase?
Yes.
All right. At any time before January 12, 2010, did you have any contact, written, emails, texts, otherwise, with John Matouk,
No.
with David Romain,
No.
Michelle Romain,
Nope.
Kelly Romain,
No.
Michael Romain?
No.
At any time before January 12, 2010, were you aware of any relationship whatsoever, if one existed, between JoAnn Matouk Romain and Tim Matouk?
No.
At any time before January 12, 2010, were you aware of any relationship, if any did exist, between JoAnn Matouk Romain and John Matouk?
No.
At any time before January 12, 2010, were you aware of any relationship, if any existed, between JoAnn Matouk Romain and Bill Matouk?
No.
At any time prior to January 12, 2010, were you aware of any relationship between JoAnn Matouk Romain, if same existed, between her and Michelle Romain?
No.
Same question with respect to Kelly Romain.
No.
Same question with respect to Michael Romain.
No.
Same question with respect to David Romain.
No.
At any time before January 12, 2010, were you aware of any animus of Tim Matouk expressed toward JoAnn Matouk Romain?
No.
At any time before January 12, 2010, were you aware of any telephone conversations that may have allegedly taken place between JoAnn Matouk Romain and Tim Matouk?
No.
At any time before January 12, 2010, did you become aware of any intent on the part of Tim Matouk to harm JoAnn Matouk Romain?
No.
At any time before January 12, 2010, were you aware of any intent on behalf of John Matouk to harm JoAnn Matouk Romain?
No.
Same question as it relates to Bill Matouk.
No.
Same question as it relates to David Romain.
No.
At any time before January 12, 2010, were you aware of Tim Matouk ever harming JoAnn Matouk Romain?
No.
Have you at any time before January 12, 2010, become aware or had knowledge of Tim Matouk allegedly threatening to even harm JoAnn Matouk Romain?
No.
Same question with respect to David Romain.
No.
Are you aware of any formal complaints that JoAnn Matouk Romain may have made to the police complaining that she was being followed?
No.
Are you aware of any formal complaints filed by JoAnn Matouk Romain prior to January 12, 2010 that she alleged her phone was being tapped?
No.
Are you aware that JoAnn Matouk Romain made any complaints to the police prior to January 12, 2010 that her mail was being tampered with?
No,
Are you aware of Ms. JoAnn Matouk Romain making any complaints to the police prior to January 12, 2010 that her home was being invaded to such a degree she needed to change the locks?
no,
Same questions as they relate with respect to the striker. Have you ever had a personal conversation with Michelle Romain?
no,
In the evening of January 12, 2010, did you ever hand an item to Michelle Romain?
yes.
Okay, and can you tell me approximately what time of the evening you handed something to Michelle Romain?
I would say between 1 and 2 a.m.
And what was it that you handed to Michelle Romain?
A black scarf.
Is this the black scarf that is mentioned in Officer Trupiano's report labeled 14.1?
Yes,
Who discovered the black scarf?
I did.
And upon discovering the scarf, could you tell me what you did with respect to presenting it to Michelle Romain?
Being that it was in the proximity of the car and the prints on the embankment, thinking it might be related, we had learned by that time that JoAnn was last seen wearing black clothing, that this might be something that she might have worn. After finding the roadway, picked up the scarf, it was damp, and I walked it over to Michelle, who was sitting with 2 other individuals in a vehicle on the property of the academy. They were inside a vehicle facing the water.
Did you ask Ms. Romain any questions related to the scarf on the evening of January 12, 2010, or the early morning hours of the 13th of January 2010?
Yes, I presented the scarf to her and asked if this was something that her mother would have worn.
Did she examine the item of clothing that you presented and have it labeled as a scarf?
Yes.
What was her response to your inquiry as to whether or not the scarf presented was an item of clothing that her mother might wear?
After looking at the scarf and the tag that was attached to the scarf, she said no, it wouldn't be something her mother would have had.
Any other conversations that you can recall on the evening of the 12th of January or the 13th of January 2010 with Ms. Romain that you can recall today?
If it would just be an update on where we were at that point with dive teams in, dive teams coming out, and this was going to happen. If I had that conversation, that's what it would have been.
Do you recognize Michelle Romain as being here today?
Yes, I did.
Are there any other women in the room besides Michelle Romain at the time of this deposition?
No.
That would be her in the green dress and the black cover-up?
Yes.
Thank you. Some questions were asked about all 30 units responding that evening. For purposes of we lay people, were there actually a numerical number of 30 units that came that evening to inspect and participate?
It would be the officers on duty only, so it would be 5 officers.
So define for us, please, what the term 30 units means, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 30 units.
All Grosse Pointe car units are designated with a 30 number. A certain scout car may be 3.5, another one might be 3.4. So when we say all 30 units, that means all 30 units, all patrol cars, officers working. If I was to call them, all 30 units make this location, I would assume they better, everyone show up.
All right. And that wouldn't be a total of 30 individuals?
No, it would just be the officers working that shift.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
The attorney just asked you if you believe that a crime took place that night, and your answer was no. Is that correct?
That night,
I'm going to object to it as a mischaracterization, is what he asked.
I think it's a pretty good characterization of what was asked.
Now, whether there was evidence of a crime. What was the question?
The question was if he thought.
a crime? No,
Yeah.
I did not believe a crime occurred that night.
And is that based in part on the understanding that there was one set of footprints leading down to the water and not coming back?
That was part of it, yes.
And if that, let's say, that piece of evidence did not exist, or if there were no footprints at all leading to the water, or if there were multiple sets of footprints leading to or from the water, in any of those circumstances,
Could I have
Would you
that read
thought-
back, please, before you answer that?
would you have thought something else? What's the objection?
I don't understand. I want to hear what your question was, and then I may have an objection, and I might not.
And is that based in part on the understanding that there was one set of footprints leading down to the water and not coming back?
That was part of it, yes.
And if that, let's say, that piece of evidence did not exist, or if there were no footprints at all leading to the water, or if there were multiple sets of footprints leading to or from the water, in any of those circumstances, could I have that read?
The objective form of the question is being compound.
Okay. The question is, I'm trying to get to how heavily you are relying on the simple claim that there was one set of footprints leading to the water and no footprints leading back in your thought that no crime committed that night. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I sort of, kind of.
Well, let me ask it to you this way. Let's say...
Mr. Redner, give me 1 second. This is right. Okay, sorry.
Let me ask it to you this way. Let's say there were multiple footprints leading to the water and multiple footprints leading back from the water. Would that change your thought process at all as to whether or not a crime took place that night?
Based on just that information only,
Well, everything else.
knowing that someone is later on reported missing, yeah, that could change things, sure.
What if there were no footprints going to the water and no footprints coming back?
Then we just have a car parked.
And a torn purse, right?
Well, had those prints not been discovered, it would not have developed into what it did.
What, a torn purse was at some point located, correct?
Objection, lack of foundation. If you know.
Yeah, I know a purse was located about being torn. That's
I'm
only,
going to hand you what's marked as Exhibit 9. Do you know what that's a picture of, please?
I would assume it's a purse of JoAnn Matouk Romain's purse.
Do you know whose foot that is in the picture?
Not mine.
Do you know whose hands those are in the picture?
No, I don't.
Does that appear to be, do you know if that's the purse that was found with JoAnn's car?
You're telling me, I don't know. No.
Okay, let me ask you this, about your thought process. If a woman is missing and her phone and keys are gone, and there's a torn purse in her car, would that make your thought process think that maybe a crime had taken place?
No, not with no, because I would say a big factor in that was the fact that if the crime had taken place, a robbery of some sort, I'm pretty sure they would have took the money that was in the purse too.
So when there's an abduction, people always take all the valuables? Is that?
No, I'm not saying that. No, I'll stand corrected. I can't explain people. I have items that are torn and tattered myself.
What I'm asking you is, I'm asking you to assume two other things in your thought process. Number one, the footprints are not as they were told to you. Number two, that there was a torn purse in the car. Everything else stays the same.
No prints, just a purse. I don't
Or
see
multiple prints going to the water and
Well,
multiple.
let me just object to the form. You posed in your hypothetical that what was told to him concerning the prints going to the water's edge was an error, when this witness has testified he saw them. It wasn't something that was told to him.
You saw one set of prints going to the water and none coming back?
Yes.
Okay, I must have misunderstood that. I thought that what you said was that by the time you got there, Colombo had already been there, and that he was the only one who had seen it before it was contaminated with other officers walking around. Do I understand that correctly or incorrectly?
When I got there, I saw the print. Officer Cullen pointed out, I believe Officer Trubiano at the time was there. Hey, look at these prints. Look at the body impressions. That's what I saw.
And the footprints going down? Or
The
just
only other
body?
footprints would have been those officers' footprints, where they went down. on either side.
So you never saw just the single set of footprints walking down and none coming back, right?
No, I saw the single set, fine, if we're gonna do that, and my officer's prints that they had just laid. I'm pretty sure I would have asked, are those your prints? Like, I'm pretty sure they would have said yes. We went down to see if there's anyone clinging onto the water's edge.
And who are those officers?
It would be the officers on scene, Colombo and Tripiano.
So the only ones who saw, if I understand this correctly, just need to make sure I know who knows what. The only people who saw those footprints going down to the
I
water
gotcha.
and not coming back are Tripiano, Colombo, and who was the third person?
There wouldn't be a third person.
I thought you said there was, okay, Tripiano and Colombo, that's
It would be, to answer your question, I would assume since Officer Colombo discovered the prints, he's probably the only person who saw the virgin prints in the snow. And then the officers doing their due diligence went down to the water, not trampling those prints, to see if there's anyone there, not, and then I was contacted back to the scene.
I have nothing
That's
further.
my understanding.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
The time is 15:45.
Can we,
Now,
can we